I didn't get the call until 8:30 at night. I had came home from working out in the wet, cold snow and ice and had dinner and was headed off to bed when my dad called and said, "You need to come down to Grandma and Grandpa's." And I knew something was wrong right then. As soon as I got out of my pickup, I was greeted by one of the officers. He said, "We don't know for sure, but your Grandma and Grandpa is missing, and there looks like there's been some foul play." I walked in, and I see papers strung around in the house. They kept a bunch of bank statements in shoe boxes, and they were strung out over the living room. Grandma's purse was left by her chair tucked behind the couch. She never left the house without her purse.
The Morans had some financial means. They sold Christmas trees from their Christmas tree field. One scenario was probably that maybe they'd been kidnapped and were being held somewhere.
I thought somebody grabbed Ed and my mother and that they would hold them ransom.
The very next day, in the early morning hours, an employee at the Yardbird shopping mall reports a vehicle matching the Marin's description. Detectives responded over to the parking lot and they found the car. He could see that the car was covered in blood. The detectives could see damage from what appeared to be shotgun pellets going into the dash. Mr. Marin's hat that he's known to wear all the time was laying on a floorboard, and still no sign of Ed and Minnie.
I was out scouring the different county roads when I got the call over the radio and said they had found their bodies.
A friend of mine was the one that found them. He saw Grandma laying alongside the road. And then Grandpa was in the brush, close to her.
Minnie had been shot in the left shoulder and the neck, and then Ed had been shot almost square on in the back.
We go to the scene. We realize that there are drag marks saying they were drugged from their car and dumped like garbage along the side of the road. When the Morans were killed, the public asked us about it constantly. The question would be, who? Who would do this to two 85-year-old, defenseless, old people? We really wanted to succeed. But we had no murder weapon. We had no fingerprints of suspects at the crime scene. We had no DNA evidence because there was none in that day and age.
There's dozens and dozens of fingerprints in the house, in the vehicle, an exterior of the vehicle. The majority of those prints came back to Ed and Minnie and some other family members. One of the biggest items that's collected as evidence is that they found a bank receipt in Ed's pocket.
I'm presently out at Sterling Savings. Apparently you had a transaction with Mr. Moran. Could you explain what occurred now?
Mr. Moran called and asked if we had any money. And I said, yeah, we had a nickel or a dime. And he said, no, he would need a little more than that. And I asked him how much. And he said $8,500.
When he got there, the money still wasn't ready, and so rather than wait in the bank, Ed went back out to the car. And when the teller went out to get him, Ed got out of the car before she got too close. She thought that she saw someone else in the car, but couldn't be sure.
When Ed Moran withdrew $8,500 from the bank, the question became, who knew that they had that money to withdraw? What if it was a family member of the Morans? There were cigarette butts in the car. Ed and Minnie did not smoke, and Mike Adler did smoke.
Some family members were looked at a little bit harder than others simply because of their history, and one of those was Mike. Mike had had a history with law enforcement.
It made me mad, pissed me off. And I pretty much told them to kiss my ass.
One of the bigger tips we had was from two ladies who were cutting through the Yardbirds parking lot. This was their first description of a suspect leaving the vicinity of the car.
He had dark brown wavy hair with small growth of beard on his face. He had on a stocking cap and a green army coat.
We took pictures of anybody who met the physical description of the sketch that we had drawn.
I know that workers that had worked on that Christmas tree farm were suspects also. The police took pictures of them too. And then they made a lineup of, I don't know, 8, 10 pictures or however many they had.
The detectives gave that photo montage of black and white and small pictures to all these witnesses, and nobody could identify a suspect.
There was a lot of fingers pointed at me, but what are you gonna do? It was really hard to clear your name. Makes you very angry. It turns you into a mean person instead of a loving, caring person. And I'd just go out and get drunk, end up in a fight. Cops came and got me. And I told them, don't you think you should be out finding my grandparents' killers? They weren't doing justice by my eyes. The rage in me wanted to come out because I wanted to know who did it.
When I was hired at the Lewis County Sheriff's Office, this case was already cold for 20 years. I needed to find every witness in this entire investigation and then talk to them one more time. I showed you 6 separate photographs, and you immediately picked out one.
That was the guy that was in front of Ed Minns.
Did you get a good look at his face at that time?
I got a good look at his face.
You know, it was amazing that as we sat and talked with the witnesses, they knew that they had seen someone, but it wasn't until that they saw the clearer photographs that they were able to pick out who it was in the backseat.
I think there's a witness out there that knows what happened.
I'm driving around in my pickup, and I have this guy holler at me. And so I turn around and look, and it's an old buddy from high school, Jake Shriver.
I saw Mike periodically. You know, and I would ask him, hey, what's going on with their grandparents' case, you know? After the murders, I always have to pass the Marin's house. My heart would just sink, and I just put my head down in shame. I said to Mike, I'm sorry, please forgive me.
He said, I can't do this anymore. I said, you can't do what? He goes, I gotta tell you something. And he said, you don't understand the hell that I've lived with this on my mind for the last 20-some years.
I just had to tell the truth. I feel responsible for causing them so much pain for so long. I still feel horrible. Back then, I mean, I was scared. And I was a 17-year-old kid. I never told anyone, but I know what happened. My mother was driving Highway 12 west. A car pulled out in front of us. It was an older car, and they were going slowly. So I said to my mother, I said, pass them. So we passed them, and it was the Marins. It was foggy out, but I could see who was in the back seat. Mr. Marin was driving, and in the passenger front seat was Mrs. Marin. In the back seat, there was 2 people. I knew them when I was young because they worked for the Marins on the Christmas tree farm. It was Rick Reif and Greg Reif. And I told him a few days later, Greg Reif walks over. He said, did you tell anybody? And I said, no. I said, I did not say anything to anybody. I said, I swear to God. And I had not said anything. And he said, well, if you say anything, the same thing that happened to them will happen to you. We'll kill your mother, we'll kill your brothers, we'll kill your father, and then we'll kill you. The Reif brothers started driving by our house almost daily. They kill these sweet, innocent, elderly people. They're not gonna stop after that. They're gonna kill my whole damn family.
This is my theory of what happened. Rick Reif and his brother, Greg, they were known drug addicts and criminals in the area. The Reifs knew who Ed and Minnie were because of Dennis Hadler and Hadler Logging, and so they knew there'd be money That night, the Wright brothers knocked on the door. When they get into the house, they discovered bank statements. But there's no money. In the morning, they're kidnapped out of their house. They're taken to the bank. They get the money. And they take them up this logging road. They were killed inside their own vehicle. Then they turn around and come back to Yardbird's parking lot. Short time later, they leave and they move up to Alaska.
In my eyes, there's only one place them two brothers deserve to be, and they both need to be in the ground.
We have the warrants, we're good to go. So we start booking the flights to go up to Alaska. And this is when I discovered that John Gregory Rife had died. You know, we spent all these years working up to this, and the day we get the warrant, he's dead. But I knew that Rick Rife was still alive, so we knew we had to get on this now. We're walking down a gravel driveway of Rick Rife. The Alaska State investigator knocks 2 or 3 times, and the door creaks open. He stands up, and he looks a lot different from what I expected. He has tubes going into his nose. He's on an oxygen machine. We tell him we have a warrant for 2 counts of murder, robbery, kidnapping, and he is so matter of fact. At this point, the state investigator advises him he's under arrest.